Hey folks, I'm Gene Delasalo with Audioholics, and we are continuing our exploration of the upmix differences between the Dolby Upmixer, the Dolby Surround Upmixer, the Auromatic from Auro 3D, as well as the DTS Neural X. And I wanted to basically expand on what we did the other day. We did 2-channel upmixing. I want to do 5.1 music upmixing because after all, we are audioholics. We care about music fidelity above all else. I will be revisiting and doing 5.1 movies, and I'll be looking at Atmos movies and examining channel content on that in other videos. So it's a progressive thing we're going to be doing, exploring over the next couple of weeks, hopefully. So before I get into it, I just want to preface the fact that I'm format agnostic. As you guys know, I've been pretty critical about Dolby back since the 2014s when Atmos first came out with what they were doing with their bouncy house upfiring speakers and how they were trying to license that whole technology to become a speaker licensor. And I wasn't a big fan of that. And I didn't think the Atmos upfiring speakers, at least the first generations, I didn't think they were very good. And I still don't think they're very good. I think the Atmos upfiring speakers should be used as a last resort. But with that said, I also don't like the fact that 3 years ago, people forget this, Dolby was trying to restrict upmixing and cross-mixing between platforms. So any signal that came into a receiver that had Dolby in it, whether it was 2.0, 5.1, or Atmos, they were trying to restrict a third-party upmixer. And it's because of us and also the work that Auro did in Europe. But we brought this whole thing to attention to the public before anybody knew. It was kind of a private thing. I did a video 3 years ago exposing this. I asked you guys as a call to action to write to Dolby to say, give us our upmixing or our cross-mixing back. And in about 8 months, because of the overwhelming response from us audioholics, they released that. And now we could do cross-mixing and upmixing on our receiver platforms or our AV processors, like the Sound United ones, for example. So if we didn't bring this to light 3 years ago, we probably wouldn't be making these videos right now because we'd be sticking with native formats for every signal that we get. So I just think it's important to mention the fact I don't like bullies. And I felt like Dolby was being a bully at the time, and Auro deserved to have a chance to have their technology be used. So kudos to them for that win back then. So I want to go over what we're going to do today. I've got a Steven Wilson Blu-ray 5.1. This is Hand Cannot Erase. Awesome album. If you guys don't have it, I recommend you get it. I think burningshed.com sells all of his stuff, including Porcupine Tree. I'm a huge fan. Steven Wilson's a fan of our channel. We've had him on as a guest. I've interviewed him about his mixes. He does some really good mixes. Most of his mixes are in 5.1. Some might be in 7.1. And now his newer albums are in Atmos, and they sound fabulous in Atmos, native Atmos. So I want to see what happens with the tops when we compare the different formats. But before I get into that, I just want to go over my room, the system layout here. So I've got the Audioholics Showcase home. This theater room is 25 feet by 20 feet wide. Big, spacious room. We've got the big, giant RBH speakers up front. They're almost 7 feet tall. Active subwoofers, FIR room correction built into them. They're fully active speaker design. They're tri-amplified. The center channel is behind the screen, acoustically transparent screen that's bi-amplified. We're using the Storm Audio 24-channel ISP MK2, which just got our Product of the Year award, and you can see a picture of it right here. And we're running a 9.4.4 system, so we've got 9 bed channels, but my wide channels are actually in the ceiling, further apart than the mains, with an angled baffle. The mid-range and the tweeter are angled 30 degrees at the listener, down at the listener, and they're further apart than the main speakers. So they really do create that illusion of having wide channels as if they were, close to the floor. Not perfect, but I didn't want to put more floor speakers here, but I do have the pre-wires. And I've got 2 sides, 2 backs, 4 in-ceiling speakers, wide dispersion speakers. They're at plus or minus 20 degrees from the MLP, which is this seat right here in the first row. This is the perfect seat in the room. And I've got good coverage. And the cool thing about this room that I didn't have so much in my old room, and this is a problem with a lot of people setting up home theaters in small rooms, they tend to cram too many speakers in a room, and they don't have enough separation between the layers because maybe they have a front speaker at the wall, and then 3 or 4 feet up higher they've got a height channel. It's hard to differentiate some of that when the speakers are too close together, especially from behind you. And when you run test tones, you can't tell which speaker you're listening to. Don't have that problem in this room. I can clearly identify when the pink noise for the wides are on. I could clearly identify the front tops, the back tops, the sides, and the back channels. And because of that ability to identify sound all around me, when you have a good immersive mix, it does create that immersive sound bubble that you always hear about. And I get that a lot when I listen to native content, whether it's Atmos music or Atmos movies. And the wide channels, if you could put wide channels, they are advantageous for native content. So you can't use wide channels in Auro 3D because it doesn't support it. The Dolby Upmixer doesn't support wide channels. So the only time you could use wide channels is if you're using a DTS Neural X Upmixer, or if you've got native Dolby Atmos content or native DTS X content, then you can have the wide channels. But in this video, I'm going to mostly focus on what's going on with the tops, and I'm going to compare it to the 3 different Upmixers. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to take a little exploration here on what we hear. All right, so we're in the storm. I shut off everything but the top speakers, as you can see in this screenshot here, and the subwoofer. So I have 4 speakers and a sub on. I'm going to go to the remote control. I'll just save it. So now we have here, it shows you the stream, the preset, the Upmixer, and then it has different parameters. Now, I want to just preface the fact that one thing cool about Auro is they give you the ability to make some customization to the sounds. Back in the day, before we had immersive surround sound, Dolby and DTS both had separate cinema and music modes, which was great because when you upmix 2-channel music, you put it in the music mode and it preserved the stereo imaging from the front channels. And then you put it in the cinema mode when you wanted to hear more of the vocal effects for a movie. Don't have that now. The only thing we have for Dolby, and that's another thing they try to get removed because of the virtualization license, and we brought attention to and got that back as well, is the center spread. So anytime you listen to the Dolby Upmixer for 2-channel, you want to turn the center spread on. The DTS Neural X doesn't even have that option. That's why I think it's a lousy 2-channel Upmixer, because it dumps everything to the center channel and you lose the stereo soundstage from your front speakers. And I'm huge on stereo soundstage for your fronts. You got to have a good 2-channel experience and then build the theater upon that. That's my opinion. And a lot of professionals agree with that as well. And part of the reason what we did with this room is we wanted to have a really good acoustically controlled room with symmetry. And I had the help of Anthony Gramani, who's a very well-recognized installer and a professional acoustician. He helped me with the acoustics in this room. Don Dunn helped me with the layouts of the room. And of course, Matthew Pose as well. So there was a lot of thought going into this room to make this a true reference room, so we could do these kind of comparisons and we can kind of discern what we're hearing. So I'll preface one thing as I don't have a fancy mic yet. I am going to get a binaural mic so we could get a little bit of a better sound of what we're hearing in here. Nothing, of course, is going to be like being here, but at least you get a little bit of a better sound, because this is not the right mic to record what's going on in here. But I think you will be able to hear some differences, and then I could explain what I'm hearing as well. So I'm talking a lot, so let's play some music. Let me hit play. We're going to start actually in DTS Neural X. Now, I adjusted the Auro preset. I changed it a little bit. I made it a little more aggressive for this because I noticed when I was playing 5.1, you didn't hear as much in the tops. But when I play 2-channel music, I tend to lower the Auro strength down to like 6 or 7. And I switch between medium and large, to be honest with you. It really depends on the music that I'm listening to. It's kudos again to Auro for having that ability. So let me hit play. As you can see, the audio stream is DTS HD. The preferred upmix is DTS Neural X. And we're going to take a listen. A lot of vocals from the tops in Neural X. Let me switch to Dolby. So there's almost no vocals now in the tops, but I'm getting like ambient effects, and it sounds very wide. Again, it's extracting details in the recording. We go back to Neural X. It's almost like the full concert with the tops right now. I'm going to switch to Auro. So there's a lot of information. It's a little reduced from the DTS. The high frequencies are really tapered off, though. It's nowhere near as detailed. Go back to Neural. Man, I don't know, Joe. Auromatic is losing to Neural X right now in terms of output and sound. Interesting. Go back to Dolby. See, now this sounds more like you're in a concert venue. It's wide, very wide. I don't get distracted by the vocals so much above me. It's very ambient. Go back to Neural. I'm going to go back to Auromatic. So I like the discreteness of it. I hear like a stereo imaging effect in Auromatic, like between the left and rights, but there's just a lot of detail missing. Sounds muffled. And I could show you changing the Auro strength, what that does. Obviously makes it a lot louder. And I'm going to switch back to Dolby. Again, it's very spacious. It's not really distracting above you. And DTS is like a concert. So I'm going to pause it for a minute, and I want to do something. I want to turn on the wide channels, and you're going to see that that only works with Neural X. But you get an interesting effect here that I want to share with you. So I'm going to share my screen again so you can see me turn that on. And I apologize that this is cumbersome and it's not polished or anything like that. But you know what? It's just a little experiment. We're having a little fun. And you guys seem to like these videos, so I guess I'll do more of them. So I'm going to turn on the wides. I'm leaving the surround channels off for now. And I'm going to save. And I'm going to go back to remote control. And I'm going to restart the song. Or try to restart it. That's Auromatic. Just sounds like it's far away. Not very detailed. The Dolby kind of sounds a little phasey, but it takes the layers and it kind of throws it into the wides. Not the wides, like around me from the back. Feels like it's wide though. Go back to Auromatic. And now Neural. So if your goal is you want the maximum amount of output from all your speakers all the time, it's clear that DTS Neural X just blows them all out of the water. In this track, playing the DTS HD master track, we don't do lossy tracks here. We do lossless so that we can really understand the differences. So the output is greater in the DTS Neural X upmixing. The wide channels are activated. The tops are playing almost like the full song. So I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn all my speakers on and I'm going to listen for myself. It's going to be very hard for you to discern differences, obviously, with this microphone and you're not here with me. And I also want to mention the fact that as you get more speakers playing in a room, it becomes more difficult to discern the differences because your brain gets confused. That's why critical listening tests are usually done either with 2-channel or they're done in mono with one speaker to really gauge tonality differences of speakers. When you start throwing multiple sources at someone at the same time, it just kind of overloads. And I get overloaded pretty easily with that now too. I mean, I used to maybe be able to discern differences better when I was younger, but I just notice it's harder for me to focus when the sound coming all around me. So it is what it is, but I want to play the 3 different versions of this upmix with all the speakers on, and then I'm going to give you my impression of what I hear, which is, of course, going to be different than what you hear. So let me share again. And by the way, I did some listening before this, and I thought the upmixing sounded good with all of the upmixers. I didn't hear any artifacting in any of them. I heard artifacting with 2-channel upmixing for the Dolby Upmixer and DTS Neural X. I did not hear the artifacting with a 5.1 upmix in those. Auro never had any artifacting. Okay, so let me go to main speakers. I'm just going to turn it all back on. And gosh, I'm going to get copywritten for this video with all this music, but we got to find some region-free or copyright-free music that's in 5.1. So all the speakers are on. I got to save my profile. And kudos to Storm Audio for making this so easily accessible to be able to do this without me having to go and get up every minute and unplug a speaker. Okay. So I am going to start with Neural X, and I'll just switch around and you guys can listen. Start over, play. Okay, here we go. So I want to compare it to native real quick, just 5.1. So with this upmix now, it seems like there's a lot of forwardness to the sound because you know the tops have a lot of info going to them. Now I'm going to go to Auromatic. I'm going to play native one more time. All right. So I'll be honest with you. I tend to like 5.1 music as 5.1 music without throwing a bunch of other speakers in the mix. If I really want to focus on the instruments and the mix itself, I felt a little bit overwhelmed with all the upmixers. And then sometimes I liked it. So it was really, I felt like there was an adaptation period. So when I switched from one upmixer to the other, at first I was like, oh, it's different. I don't know if I like it. I didn't really like the Neural X one, to be honest with you. It just made everything sound so forward. And I think it's because it's just putting so much information in the tops, kind of like what Auro was doing with 2-channel music when it was upmixing. It just overwhelmed. I thought the Dolby Upmixer did the least harm because it was just providing an ambience and it was extracting the layers up to the tops and the wides weren't on. And the Auromatic, even though the Auromatic sounded like it was muffled in the upmix with the tops, it didn't sound bad to me. I actually thought it sounded pretty pleasant. And when I was adjusting the Auro strength, I thought I could live with that. So if I was listening to this whole album, I would probably either use the Dolby Upmixer or the Auromatic. And depending on the mood, depending on what I feel like the day, I think I would interchange them and just get a different experience. So it's not that any of them are bad. They are different. And it really comes down to listening preference, what your speaker layout is, and just what you think sounds best for that recording. So I hope this helped guide you guys a little bit. I don't know if we really proved anything other than the fact that all 3 upmixes are pretty good. There's no artifacting. It's good to have the options there. And I'm glad that we can have these kind of videos to do the cross mixing and upmixing, because we almost didn't have this ability. And because you guys wrote to Dolby and you basically said, give us our upmixing back, they gave it back. So kudos, guys. Kudos to Auro for that win a few years ago. And I hope you guys found this useful. Don't forget about our Patreon channel at patreon.com/audioholics. We appreciate your support. It gives us the ability to do more of these videos. You get direct access to us if you want to ask questions or suggest video topics. And let me know down below what your favorite upmixer is. Do you have different experiences upmixing 2-channel versus 5.1 music? The next video I'm going to probably do is going to deal with upmixing movies. Teo Nikolakis expressed an interest in doing this as well. He's going to really do a lot of testing over the next couple of weeks. He's got 2 different systems in his house that support Auro 3D. and we're going to be comparing notes. So we'll keep exploring this, and I hope you guys find this fun and useful, and maybe it gives you some pointers on how to set up or configure your speaker layouts, or how you set up your surround sound processing. And yeah, I think that's it. It's late, and I shouldn't be doing these videos right now. I should be going to bed. With that said, this is the end, and until next time, my friends, keep listening.